surprise shone light from distant northern skies. At that point, I realized I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, interviews with awakened masters as they share their quantum work with you. The Quantum Guide Show is produced by Karen Holton, creator of the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, a free 9-step online course to give you the tips and resources you need to thrive. Karen lost and continues to keep off 178 pounds of surplus body weight as she made her dreams come true. Whether you are awakening to the ascension process or simply want a wiser, more efficient lifestyle, this program is for you. No strings attached. The Quantum Guide Show is brought to you in part by Zendome's Orgonite, Karen's unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Find out how orgone generators work and what they can do for you. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out Karen's current selection, only available from her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. Today I would like to introduce you to my special guest, Lorilei Potvin, who is a Psychic Medium Empath, Akashic Records Practitioner, Crystal Reiki Master / Energy Healer, Medical Intuitive, Spiritual Mentor, Registered Nurse, and YouTuber. She's also a digital internet radio host of her show called The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, and she's the co-host of Trippin' the Void with Seraphine Hurley. Lorilei has had an extensive background with the Paranormal Realm, sharing her and her family's extreme paranormal experiences in their own home on Paranormal Survivor Season 4, Episode 9. Join her Monday nights for the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I got to tell you, I love your show, Lorilei, and I want to point out 2 episodes that I don't want anyone to miss. So the first one that I just loved so much was Dr. Chuck Kennedy, and I understand he's a fellow registered nurse. He's got his doctorate in neurology, and he discovered the area of the brain where psychic ability actually comes from, and he's called it the region of Psi, and he teaches forensic remote viewing, and he has teams that in the last 25 months have found over 100 missing children, solved 18 cold cases, and broken up 2 child trafficking rings. Wow. And in another episode on her show, Lorilei talks with Augie Nost, where they discuss the power of the mind, the importance of daily meditation, and the laws of the universe. And everybody, all the links for Lorilei are going to be down in the description box, how to get a hold of her, you can find her shows, everything. And as I mentioned, Lorilei is also the co-host of Tripping the Void with the Duchess and the Angel Rocker with her bestie, Seraphine Hurley, on Tuesday nights, exact same station, time, and YouTube channel. And both shows can be heard on UPRN, United Public Radio. And again, the links will be below. Lorilei's had many extreme paranormal experiences in her home, as I mentioned, for over 11 years, and we're very happy that she got to share her story on television. She's in the process of writing a book about autism and 2 other books to share the experiences of nurses and first responders as they witness the incredible events from when someone passes from this life on to the next. as well as miracles, something that Lorilei calls the gift. Welcome, Lorilei. I'm so excited to have you on this show.
I'm so excited to be here. We finally got a chance to talk. We've been trying to do this even voice messaging, so I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Oh my gosh, I'm totally inspired by you. So keep it coming. Don't change. I'm wondering if we could start off with you telling us a little bit about your work as a light worker, a spiritual teacher, and a mentor. This is so important information that the newly awakened need to know.
Well, I know you mentioned about our paranormal experiences, and I always say, I'd never wish what happened to us to a blade of grass, let alone another human being. But looking back, it was the impetus that got me really involved and on the path I'm on now. And what I'm doing, how this all started, is I had a video. I didn't get a chance to upload it to YouTube before my computer. I spilled coffee on it. So what it's about, as I always say, is what do tattoos and angel cards have to do with each other? And absolutely not. But this is actually how I started about 15 years ago. I was going to get my first tattoo. And this lady is now a really good friend of mine, and I consider her the catalyst of why this really started, because I walked in with my two sons, and the youngest had to be about 6 years old, and my oldest maybe 8. And she said to me, "You have two very unique, special children." And I said, "All children are special." And she said, "No, your children have really unique gifts. Do you mind if I do something with them?" And I said, "Well, as long as you're not going to hurt them." So she had taken these crystals. I still to this day don't know what she did with them, but she was like banging them around them, and it was with energy, because she does that kind of thing. She's a Reiki Master. And then she looked at me and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean, what do I do?" And she said, "Well, I'm picking up something about you." And I said, I'm a registered nurse. I'm on permanent disability. I've hurt my back." But she says, "Is there anything you're really interested in?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I've always thought angels were really, really special."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Hang on." And she ran in the back, came out with this box, and she handed it to me. She goes, "Here." And I said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And she said, "You'll know." And then I said, "Well, when do you need it back?" And she said, "You'll know." And it was actually my first box of cards with Doreen Virtue, angel cards. And it inspired me to take, actually, when Doreen was involved with angels. For those of you that are newly awakened, you may see her name. She's now sort of migrated more to the religious side, where she was kind of non-denominational. But she used to offer a certified certified angel card reading course. So that's what I had taken. So I'd started that, but I still wasn't sure what I was going to do. But the paranormal, after this long story, is what really gave me the push to be doing what I'm doing, really made me realize I've had these gifts my whole life. Mm-hmm. I think most newly awakened people, once you start to think about it, you realize you've had it your whole life. So that's basically how I got started. With my work, though, you were asking me as a spiritual teacher and mentor, and this was a big thing for me. Now, not everybody's the same, with almost 7 billion people on the planet. But what I find the biggest questions I get is, who are my spirit guides? How do I open my third eye? And when am I going to hear them? When am I going to hear them? So yeah. The biggest awakening for me was, we've talked before off air or off your show, that we're in contact with spirit, and I say spirit because we have so many different kinds of spirit guides. So just collectively, I call them spirit. Mm-hmm. Is when you're sitting there and you're quiet, is what I teach my students. And say you've got a really deep problem, you've got to solve it. You don't know what you're going to do. You're sitting there quietly in thought, and all of a sudden you get this stroke of genius that comes through. Mm-hmm. And everybody that I know, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Everybody that I know that is sitting there, when you quiet the mind and you're sitting there in quiet, you have a conversation with yourself. Well, guess what, folks? That's more than likely your guides. The way to know, I always say I teach my students, is if it doesn't come from ego, it comes lovingly, it's helpful, it's useful, it's supportive. That's your guides.
I would agree. I would agree with you. For me, because I channel from different kinds of non-corporeal beings, for me, what it was like in the beginning was like, you know how we have peripheral vision?
Yes.
Well, we also have peripheral awareness. So in my conscious mind, my thinking mind, it was like these little messages and voices that would just come in on the edge, and then it'd be up to me to stop quiet and listen for them. Would you agree with that, Lorilei?
I absolutely would. And I've worked with quite a few different mentors myself. And one of the most beautiful things that I've heard, and I carry it forward, is meditation is our workspace. And I tell people meditation isn't just for light workers or those in the esoteric field. I mean, major corporations have their CEOs doing it, athletes do it, there's health benefits to it. But the reason why meditation is so important, and a lot of people say, I can't stop the mind chatter. So remind me in case I forget the little trick that Augie shared on my show that's really helpful, is that when we're in there and we're able to quiet the mind, and the deeper you go, and if you start getting into things like crystals and what have you, that's when you start connecting with some of the beings you're talking about. But the way to tell the difference, and I don't say this to scare anybody, but I'm going to always tell you guys the truth, is, we live in a duality type of world here. It's called the 3D existence Earth. And I know you know this, but for our people that are watching. So, we have light, we have dark, we have hot, we have cold. Well, we have good, but we also have some not so good. The way I like to explain it to my students is, and the way it's been shared to me with my guides and spirit, on the other side, names aren't important to them. They're okay with us calling them a name like Archangel Michael or your guide or whatever it may be. To them, it's all about energy. They recognize each other on the other side. They just know each other. Well, you truly are one over there with energy. So what happens is, the way it was explained is, anybody, all these billions of people look like little pinpricks of light. Well, people that are aware of their gifts, and I believe everybody has the gifts, it's whether or not we follow that path or choose. Some people hang on to them their whole lives, but children. But what happens is, people that are awakened, it's almost like a bonfire, they showed me. So, of course, it's easier for spirits, say you've got an earthbound spirit that needs help to be able to find you or whatever it may be. But there's also sometimes a little bit not so good. But there's lots of things you can do to protect yourself and to know what different energies feel like. The one thing that I think is so important too, that I always share, when I met my common law partner, we've been together almost 12 years, and I had said to him, I'm only dealing with angel cards. I only want the positive. I want nothing negative. I'm kicking goosebumps. I'm telling you, that's my sign for truth here. That's so weird. I don't know why I'm getting them, but I said, I only want to deal with the positive. I want nothing. That's why I don't want to do tarot. I don't want anything with that. And he said these words that have sat with me practically every day, and I try to teach my students. And he said, Laura, when you're doing this kind of work, you need to know the difference. So, like I say, there's lots of positive ways to connect, but there's things that I'm sure you've probably done shows or will do shows about teaching people about energetic protection and things like that. So it's nothing to fear, nothing whatsoever. So that's kind of some of the things I teach. I just wrote an article about how to open your third eye. I didn't tell people how to do it, though. I gave them kind of the breadcrumbs to follow the trail for themselves.
Yes.
Whether it's meditation, whether it's, your clairs, you may hear, clairaudient, clairvoyant, whatever it may be. Those are some of the gifts that we have as the sixth sense. Liken it to the fact that some people are born, they come in, they're natural born athletes, natural born musicians, some are artists, some are singers, whatever that may be. That's kind of what I find with the human race, that some of us have more stronger sixth sense gifts, if you will. So, but that doesn't mean that you can't open any of those other gifts. Spirit's here to help you. They're here, I always say, from the minute you take your first breath, even before, until they help you transition. back home or whatever your belief system may be, and they're here to help you. So all you have to do is ask. Have you found that, I'm sure, too, right, Karen?
Oh, I've never been disappointed. And the other thing that I was taught early on is because I come from a strong fundamentalist Christian background before I left religion, and that I left religion completely in the early 1990s. But because of that, I had a lot of fears around contact, with guides and things. And fortunately for me, Gabriel rescued me and taught me a few things. But the big thing was for me was to learn to really be in touch with my own body sensations, because my guides work with body sensation.
Just totally making goosebumps, and there's a reason why. That's my sign for something.
And if I feel so much love and so much mercy and compassion, and so different than those tapes that are going on in the head that, how we can, the accuser, not the accuser at all, the exact opposite. And then I learned to follow the love vibe and to follow the positive body sensations. We can respond to pain or we can respond to pleasure, and we'll get what we need to get to wake up and to get our lessons, I believe, in this world. So anyway, following the love, the things that I just can't wait to connect with them. Their messages are so encouraging. Fill me with so much love. There's no doubt that those are my guides. And the more of those guides we pull in, and that's the other thing I'm sure you would agree with, we got to pull it in. It's not like it just magically you fall out of bed one morning and you're inspired and enlightened, and the more we pull in. So anyway, that was how, and so I have so much love and so much protection pulled in that, to be honest with you, I know the dark side exists, but I don't really have any dealings with it. It doesn't, my dark side is my own shadow, my accuser. That's my shadow. You know what I mean? So
shadow work. Teach about that.
Yeah, so I don't want to run on, but I want you to dovetail what you're saying into your work as an energy healer. You do crystal Reiki, you do therapeutic touch, you're a nurse, so you're obviously a healer. I really want to hear about that, because as I had mentioned to you before, often when we go through the awakening process, the old mainstream ways of dealing with health and all that just don't do it anymore. And so can you tell people about your wonderful work?
You. So on top of being a psychic medium and mediumship, I'm going to talk about the healing, but just so you know, folks, we can attain new gifts as we go along. Part of what I always look for is if something appears in my life more than twice in a very short period of time, 3 times, I know that's a message from spirit. And that's how the mediumship happened. I'm still not as confident. I'm building and trusting with spirit. We're getting things like evidential proof is what I call. So, you get something, you go with it and you say it, and either the person says, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, this is so relevant, or they'll give you examples. Then you're on the money. It's building that trust. With the healing, yes, I've always been drawn to medicine. My plan actually was to go to be a physician. I had my degree in nursing, and then I had children, and I was so grateful for them because I was always told I'd never be able to have children when I was 16. So I look at it, sorry, I thought I had the volume turned off on my phone here, just in case it comes through. And so I used to run even an infertility support group in my city. I went through that. And so I always say I won the lottery twice. And my second one has been born with severe autism. So that's quite a journey. But anyways, I planned on being a doctor. And what had happened was I was a visiting nurse out in the community full time. I was still working casual in the NICU with the little ones. And then I had set up a community nursing course for fellow nurses and RPNs. We're both from Canada, so it might be LPNs in the States, or overseas, whatever you might call it. And I was teaching that one night a week. And I went to a patient's home that had a trailer, and I went in the side door. I never judge people. I always say I'm not here to judge. That's not my job. But there was just a little path through, and I'd gone to do a dressing, and there was a front door, and I'd asked him, would you mind if I use the front door? It's a little closer to my car. And he said, sure, yeah, by all means. And when I stepped out on his front landing, like of the steps, it was a rug and a huge hole was covered, and I fell through and shattered all the discs in my back.
Oh,
So I never was able to, I never told you that before.
no.
So what happened was, I was in bed for almost 20 years, and thank the higher powers that be for the doctor that I finally, quite by one of the worst circumstances in my life, and there's a reason why I'm sharing all this. Um, so here I had to give up planning on being a doctor. I'm in bed for 20 years practically, was terrified to go see this new doctor. The other doctor just hand you a prescription and send you out. And I had enough medication to keel over an elephant and wasn't helping. But when I look back on these situations in life, my youngest son had such high needs. I know many parents that had to quit their job. Was I making the money I'd be making as a nurse? No, but I had a regular pension coming in every month. Same thing with this doctor. My other doctor was horrible, 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 horrible to me finally. And he was actually a coworker of mine too. I was absolutely horrified. I'd seen him for about 12 years. And just by fate, he sent me to this doctor. She saved my life. I'm up. I mean, I'm not 100%, but I can get out of bed. I'm able to do stuff. So I guess that's part of what I'm talking about, even with healing, is do we look at the glass half full or do we look at it half empty? You may be hearing these terms if you're newly awakened, raising your vibration. Then get into the healing. This is why I'm talking about this, because it's so important on just frame of mind, the thoughts that you put out there, the emotions, whether you stuff them down or they're meant to be expressed. We're all energy. Everything on this planet is energy, and it's meant to flow. So that's what I find happens. These are the type of people I usually see. They've gone to every doctor. They've tried everything in the book, and nothing works. So what I do with them, and how I discovered this was I kind of got drawn into this as I worked with different mentors, and I had one that kind of pushed me. We were in it was another group I used to work with on Facebook. And she said, I want you to, there was about 60 people, and she said, I want you to imagine me like Princess Leia, in Star Wars when you're being, when R2-D2 was making the hologram of her. And then she asked me to close my eyes and do a body scan. Never done this before. That's when I realized I could pick up and feel energy. So with the crystal Reiki even, I use that. I can do therapeutic touch distance-wise. All this can be done distance-wise. And, I've had a few people locally say to me, well, don't you have an office? Or, can I come and see you? No, you don't need to. And you know what? And this isn't to scare people. My situation is so unique. That's why I'm writing one of the 3 books about our paranormal situation. I'd rather keep my energy here. You keep your energy there, and it works because I have tested it on somebody over in Europe. I live in Northern Ontario, way down in the south of the US. It works anywhere. Distance is no problem.
I would agree with you. It's my understanding. The reason is because the healing and the distance work we do is not in the 3rd dimensional reality. In the 4th, 5th, all of them, there's no time and no space. And to prove that, I have gone and had different kinds of alternative therapies, and I started to recover before I had the therapy. And then I have the therapy, and then it just continues. So in my reality, things are very much a process. They start before the event and they continue after the event. And so I had a very involved implant removal process done by remote, and it was fantastic. So I just wanted to throw that out there to support what you're saying for those people who are going, well, what do you mean you can do it through distance? Absolutely. In fact, it even works better sometimes because you don't have the barriers, the perceived barriers.
Well, science is even proving this. Quite a few great sites out there like Gostica.com or, oh God, I'm just pulling a few out of my head. That's one I can think of right now. But there's all kinds of spirituality sites that actually, even there's a site, she has a page on Facebook and she goes live quite a bit. She used to work for CNN and she's actually a chronic pain sufferer and she's a immunization injury patient.
Mm-hmm.
She works on a lot of the stuff. Her page is called Health Nut News. But you look that up if you, and science is proving, they have done it, including testing blood levels, cortisol levels to see if the stress goes up or down, and keep changing it by distance, by distance, by distance. I think they gave up after 100 miles. They realized there was no difference. So the way I like to liken it for people, excuse me, I must be still have a bit of this cold I had last week, is that we're all energy. Everything, if you're, I come from a science background. If you're that type of person that's really literal, everything on this planet is energy, made of atoms, protons, neutrons, I mean, go on and on. So, as we know the laws of physics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can be transferred from one place to another. This is where scientists are starting to pick up on this. We also have energy centers in our body, which I work with the crystal Reiki, which are called chakras.
Do you actually use crystal?
Pardon?
Do you actually use crystals when you're doing it?
That's why I told you before the show I was going to grab it. I have a good friend that's in radio with me. He's Canadian as well, Derek White Sky Cloud, and he's well, this is one of the tools I use all the time.
Yes.
All made out of natural animal parts. No animal lost their life on purpose to contribute. That's the one thing he does. One thing I use, and folks, this is a good thing for you if you're getting into crystals, but they can be fairly costly, and then they become a problem like me where I've got way too many. Most of us do. We've been doing this for a while. But clear quartz, besides the fact that it can clear your crystals because they can accumulate energy, clear quartz doesn't. That's why they even use little pieces of quartz in some of the older watches, because they've got that. They're an energy generator, and Karen knows all about that. But the beautiful thing is, clear quartz can hold the frequency of any crystal. So say there's even a more costly crystal out there that you want to use for whatever reason, you literally just have to set the intent that if you want, I mean, this is going to sound crazy for people maybe that are newly awakened. You can even talk to these guys. They'll tell you your name. They'll tell you what their purpose is. They'll even tell you if they want to go home with you or not, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, and when we're supposed to leave them for someone else to find, and it's all. Does it sort of bridge over onto the fairy realm? I don't know. I think that
I love fairies and unicorns and stuff.
Yeah,
go there because I love that stuff.
Me too. There's a reason why we love it.
There's another one. Another
beautiful.
one. This is actually black quartz. So what I was going to say, the ones I use the most are, this is a Super 7. I got it backwards. I just made this little carrier off of YouTube. I make jewelry too. I do quite a bit of craft stuff.
Beautiful.
So Thunder Bay actually is known to have Orlite 23 and Super 7. So a Super 7 is also called a melody stone. So it's made up of at least 7 different crystals. I'm looking for my Orlite here. Actually, I just got a new Super 7. Talk about being a crystal junkie. Look at the size of this one.
Oh, beautiful. Just beautiful.
I haven't used this one with my healing work. So what happens with crystal Reiki, because this is a newer type of treatment that's out there. So it's not as expensive for people, depending on the amount of sessions they book with me. But the first session, what we do is about an hour and a half. I'm going to do an intake session with you. Find out what's going on in your life while you're coming to see me. Usually what's going on, it doesn't matter whether it's pain, could be anxiety, could be depression. I mean, it could be cancer, it could be, you name it. You can usually see that reflected in the chakras. So what happens is after we do the intake, we also have chakras in the back, our ears, our hands, you name it. They're discovering more and more. So I will go through and I draw like a little gingerbread man, and I use a pendulum, and I check your chakras, and I have a code. I'll ask them, show me if it's overactive, underactive, or is there something being avoided? And then once I go through all the chakras in the front and the back. Now, back chakras don't need to be checked all the time. It's only like maybe once a year or twice a year, or say you've got something really big going on, like, you've been given a really bad health diagnosis, or even something good, like you're planning for a stressful wedding, or that's when we do that. But when I'm doing the back chakras as well, I check behind the in the ear chakras. A lot of times past life information comes through that way.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, after we check both of them, the front and the back for the first time, the ones that need some balancing is I will use different colors, and depending, I work with spirit, there's special crystal guides I work with, and we will either, this is where this comes in, we'll either be directing the energy in or directing it out. And I'm telling you, people I do this with, so many people say to me, oh my gosh, I can feel that. Like, and it's not,
I know, yes.
it's not
Yes.
uncomfortable, but they can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And the big kicker is after the session's done, I take most of any of the energy that needs to come down and ground it. So grounding, just bringing it down into the earth, which the earth is meant to do. And at the end of the session, I also seal your aura. And for those of you that think of aura as a hippy dippy new age term, I wish I could remember the TV show. I use this example all the time. There's one gentleman standing here, and there's another one that he doesn't know very well. And he gets up really close in his face. He says, dude, personal space. That is your aura. Someone steps into your aura, you will automatically step back depending on how well you know them because it feels uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I check your aura and then I seal it. I use selenite, which is a high energy.
Yes. Wow, look at the size of that piece.
So that's basically what crystal Reiki does.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm very aware that crystals have an unseen component that's bigger than the seen component. Mm-hmm. And they're very much alive. Maybe they don't breathe, but they do pull from 0 point or sub-Planck level where where things are neither a wave nor a particle. They're in that amorphous state waiting for us. This is what's so frustrating. If people only knew how much power that we can pull from that amorphous soup and create what we want. But anyway, I'm really aware that crystals do that, and quartz especially, and a lot of crystals are in the quartz family. And then they generate this energy, and then when they're under compression, that's when they start to also generate orgone. Well, that's another show, but I just want to tell you.
I have your orgonite right here, and I have an orgonite wand I haven't tried yet. I did want to mention one other thing. A lot of times what I'll do, and I always say for some reason, and this is a study that Dr. Chuck Kennedy is doing, is anybody who is psychic or a medium, maybe an energy healer, we have almost double the normal rate of autoimmune issues. He's doing a study right now. Once he gets all the facts in, and he already did one with over 400 people. This is where he's got numbers from. So he's doing a global study now. And he's going to connect with whoever's open to it to see when your psychic abilities began and when the issues began with your health. So, but I do work with people like this one especially, and all I have to do distance-wise is concentrate on the area, and I don't even need to see you. It helps if I can though, and I a lot of people have got a lot of pain relief. The only thing is I end up picking it up being an empath, and then I can see what they're feeling.
Yeah. I've also seen a correlation with a body weight and empathic. I noticed a lot of women who are very empathic carry more body weight, and I believe it's an insulator. And a lot of empaths are also pain eaters, and it takes us a long time to recognize it and then change that into a more doable system. Otherwise, we just take so many hits that people love to be around us because we make them feel good, but then they leave, and now we got to clean up, right?
I have a really good technique my Akashic Records Practitioner taught me, and it, because I'm sure, and you'll know if you're an empath, you'll be out in a store and people will be walking up to you and they'll be telling you their whole life story, and they'll say, I don't know why I'm telling you this, like I don't even know you. All the time. So what she basically says, because this might be helpful for some people, because I've so many people that say being an empath is a curse. I can't go in a crowd. I can't go into a shopping mall. I can't. Look at it as a superpower, I say, and it's not with no. But you've got an instant BS, or as my good friend Seraphine Hurley says, Bravo Sierra detector. So when people are not telling you the truth, you can pick it up. You usually pick up the energy in a room. If you walk into a room, there's all kinds of really great things being an empath. But part of that is, and I even have a video on YouTube, I call it a love shield, because we're not coming from a fear-based perspective, protecting our energy. We're using, I think love is one of the most powerful emotions out there. So I walk people through on how to utilize love and actually create that bubble around yourself, so that, and I even set the intention that unless it's for something for my highest good or it's not meant in love, it bounces right off and it returns to sender. No hatred, no anger, no nothing sent back, just whatever's coming through. No, thank you. Send it back. Helps a lot.
And we have a choice. I think that a lot of people forget that we have free will, because we've been brought up into this construct where we're told we have to do things this way and that way, and we're so controlled that we don't realize how incredibly fabulous it is to be human and on Earth, especially during these times. So yeah, there's troubles, but boy, there's so many amazing things, eh?
Well, it depends where you want to put your focus. So the other thing I tell empaths is, you know what, maybe stop watching the news, read the paper. You know, if I always say if there's something big going on, I'm going to find out about it.
Sure.
The other thing I thought was so important that you brought up about free will, and I was going to mention it earlier because it had come up about, you said about making a choice, that you're not just going to, I've met two people that have had almost I would call it a universal download very quickly. Augie being one, Augie Nost, and another one of my friends that I've met through this kind of work. She's called the Healing Oracle. I would say she had it would be a universal download, like everything coming all at once. But the thing is with free will too, I always teach my students, especially with angels and our guides, is they respect that we have free will. So if you want to connect with your guides, or you want to connect with your angels, or get to know them more, or the fairy realm if you believe in it, dolphins are included, I believe, in there as well. I mean, go on and on and on. You've got so many ascended masters. We've got, then the extraterrestrial realm. I mean, we could go on and on.
Go on and on. We could.
But the important part is, and you don't have to say it out loud, but to think and say, I'm giving you my permission, the angelic realm or whoever it is, I'd like to get to know you more. I'd like to work closer with you. You can even ask for signs from Spirit. Spirit will give them to you. I haven't done this myself. And again, this is a couple of my mentors taught me this. I mean, Spirit keeps appointments. So you want to learn about something, anything whatsoever, you know what? You set the time and you get into meditation, you head in there, bring a book with you, because they'll show up and they'll share the information.
So really, I mean, I just want to say a little bit about the awakening process. At least, I mean, we're all different, right? It's like how many billion people, and our process is all different. Everything is different. So I'm not generalizing, but for myself, when I started to wake up, I started to notice all the things that were wrong with the world. Then I started picking up all these amazing things that you're never going to hear about at an office party or a Tupperware party, that's for sure.
You probably can't talking about it.
Yeah. All these amazing possibilities, and then we start experimenting with them, and we realize that we really do have superpowers. Wow.
I always say, you know what? On average, we only use 10% of our brain. Imagine if we use 15 or 20. And I argue with my radio producers, the station owner, and he's had quite a few. Karen's going to get to meet him on Monday night, but he runs actually International Center for Alien Abduction Research. And he tries to tell me that empaths are few and far between, that not everybody has psychic abilities. And I say, no. Everybody has a sixth sense. You think about that. When people say, I'm going to go with my gut on this, I'm going to trust my gut. That's your sixth sense. And it's not just women that are intuitive. They have proven that the female part of our race does seem to be a little bit more deeply intuitive. Might be because we're more emotional and more in touch with our feelings. And I think that has to do with upbringing. Men are taught not to express their emotions. Not everybody, but
And right brain, left brain dominance, depending on the roles that are
Yeah.
assigned to us when we're born.
True.
And then that gets into the whole gender thing. We got to do a show on that one day. That would be fun.
I know.
But I agree 100%. And I do not, I look at it this way. If I wanted to learn how to play the piano, I'd get up there after my first lesson, and it would sound pretty terrible, and I'd be plunk, plunk, plunk. But if I practiced every day, right, in 2 years, I'd be playing the piano. And in 10 years, I'd be an ascended master playing the piano.
Yeah.
So there's no difference. A muscle needs to be exercised, our psychic abilities. But belief, I got to tell you, belief seems to be, for me, in my world, the single one most powerful tool. Just even opening the door that it's possible.
Reading my mind, because I was just thinking those things that you just said.
Yeah, well, we're both not
trust.
surprised.
Or trust, like trusting.
Yes.
Don't tell yourself it's your imagination. Give yourself permission. What if I just was open to the possibility? Like you said, what if I was just willing to just trust? Because that's what I find with most people when they're newly awakened. And then, like you said, with daily practice, and you don't have to spend hours in guru meditation position if you're super busy. And it was actually, I had called into who became a mentor of mine, her show one time, and she.
Okay, sorry about that. We had to take a little break, but we're back. Please continue.
No problem. And you know what? This happens when you're recording. And, you know, I always look at everything happens for a reason. But I believe where we stopped off, I was saying, I called in to somebody who has a show, and she became one of my mentors. But like I said, she was telling this, kept saying, no, I'm not going to say that. No. And her face was like red, like you could tell she was embarrassed.
Yeah.
This had to do with meditation. And I, you know, because the first thing she said to me, do you meditate regularly? And I said, no, I'm super busy. And that's when she brought this up. And so as she was saying, you know, do you have time to go to the bathroom? And she's still red. And I said, well, of course. And she said, well, most people are in there 5-10 minutes. And she's right. So whether it's a shower every day, I was laughing anyway. I said, you don't need to be embarrassed. I said, Spirit must know me well, because I have a great sense of humor about stuff like anything but that. But she had a good point. And it's not about quantity. It's about the quality. So, and effort counts. So in the beginning, when you're meditating, and say you're only able to quiet your mind for a minute, but you really sat there for half an hour, that still all counts. You're making that effort. It's the same thing if you start an exercise regime, like you said, with having that muscle. It's going to take time to get used to it. But one of the really great tricks, and I didn't know this, and I'm good friends with Augie, so is Karen, but I'm really good friends with Augie Nost. And I think somebody had asked in the chat room that night on the live show, well, what do you do when you can't stop the mind chatter? So he gave the example of, well, mind you, you're showing my age here, but back quite a few years ago, there was those pictures that looked like they were all just jagged lines, but if you unfocus well, he said it was kind of like that, but you kind of just sort of cross your eyes a little bit, your eyes, then close them, and then try and keep them that way. He said it really cuts down on the mind chatter, and then you're able to be quiet, because you can even go into meditation for healing. We have healers on the other side. They, and we hear about this all the time in this lifetime. Somebody's been, I think it's Anita Murjani, for example. She was like going into hospital. She's a bigger spiritualist, if you haven't heard of her. Like, I don't know how she refers to herself. I'll say light worker. And she's with Hay House, because that's a really, by the way, if we've some new people haven't heard of it, great place to go. Lots of free stuff. I'm all about the free. Not cheap, but you know what I mean. There's so much to know. And she was on her deathbed, like literally only had hours to live. And I believe she had a near-death experience. I think she had a cardiac arrest, and she was just full of cancer. And lo and behold, she's still here today, cancer-free. All the tumors started regressing, going away. Now, whether we call that a miracle or what we call that, we've got healers on the other side, so all you got to do is ask.
We do. And I think, too, when we're willing to step into the role of our higher purpose, then the support really comes to the fore.
You're reading my mind again, because I was thinking, then people say, well, what if I ask and it doesn't happen? Well, there's always a reason, too. When you ask for something, like I even teach people, and I'm not trying to name drop here, but, oh gosh, I can see her face and I always forget her name. Sonia Choquette. She was teaching, because she teaches there's 39 different types of spirit guides, and I believe there's way more than that, but we all, depending on what our experience is, right? And she was talking about runners. And I've always worked with the angels, like things like a parking spot. You need a good parking spot.
Oh, yeah. We use Mrs. Bernstein. That's our parking goddess. It doesn't matter what you call it, but we call her Mrs. Bernstein.
She probably doesn't care. Like I said,
she doesn't care.
No.
But she gives you the parking spot, doesn't she?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, for example. I have to see my doctor for my back once a month. And I always call ahead of time. And he says, the receptionist is such a sweetheart. And he says, maybe come between 6 and 7, because she's only open from 4 till 8. But it's going to be at least an hour. It's packed full. And so I've been trying this, specifically asking the runner angels, or the runners, could you please go ahead, and if possible, I really appreciate, if you might be able to kind of move things along a little bit. Mm-hmm. Every time now, it's happened about 4 times, so 4 months in a row. And every time I walk in, the receptionist, Adam, says to me, I don't know how you do it. I said, do you really want to know? Always got to remember to thank them too, because gratitude's so important. It really, really is. I think too, when you're newly awakened, because I couldn't understand the beginning. What is this? Raise your vibration. What are you talking about, raising your vibration? But it's things like practicing gratitude, and people say, well, I have nothing to be thankful for.
Yes, we do.
Did you wake up this morning? Are you breathing? Did you have a roof over your head? Did you have, were you able to have a cup of coffee? Whatever that may be. And, the more you start to have that practice, the more you start to, but more and more things seem to happen.
Absolutely.
I always say there's no coincidences in this lifetime.
And I also ask for things like I ask for courage, and I ask for faith. And I say, my faith is just not great today. Please send me an angel that's going to give me all the faith I need. Send me an angel, because it's such abundance, the amount of help that's out there. We just got to ask and be open.
Yeah, I've heard people say, well, aren't the angels kind of busy? Like they don't have time to get your parking spot. It's like, you have no idea. There's no space. There is no time. They can be in a gazillion different places at once. You've got an angel. You can ask for more angels even. Like anybody that's able to see angels has told me, I have quite a few, but I've asked for them when I get in the car. Every single time, I don't say it out loud. I just say, angels, could you please protect me and also all the cars around me as well. I hear an ambulance or a siren. Could you please, angels, go? And I'll say all this out loud. I just think it. Could you please go and be with that person if they're in pain or they're afraid? Could you comfort them, please? I've got my youngest one actually doing that now, and he always remembers this. Because you can do this with your house. You can ask the angels to keep your house protected or safe, so he calls it the bubble. Every night before bed, Mom, I remember to put the bubble up. And he's 21, but I always say with no disrespect, he's like at that 5 to 6 year old age, very precocious. But he's also very close to angels. His middle name is Michael, and so it's very easy for him to understand about Archangel Michael. He can remember Archangel Metatron because he thinks that sounds like a transformer, but he's actually quite gifted, even with having the difficulties he does. My oldest, because I find too, and I don't know why Spirit's asking me to mention this, but say you are newly awakened and you've got kids. a lot of chance your kids are probably, you're going to be seeing some of the gifts and a lot earlier than you probably recognized yourself.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, because I do work with parents or younger light workers with their parents' permission. Because my children, my youngest is going to be 25, and he's actually very intuitive. He can communicate with animals. And even though I wasn't doing this when he was a baby, I was always open to these kind of things. I think because of what I had seen as a nurse in palliative care. And I remember, so ever since he could talk, he could see things. And when I hurt my back, he was about 3 years old, and he, as much as you think as mom, you're hiding how you're feeling.
Yeah.
He said, "Mommy, your back hurts today." And I said, uh, well, it does, honey, but how do you know? Well, usually you have all kinds of colors around your head today, and there's just a little bit of gray around your head. So I never crammed it down his throat, neither one of them. But if there was a teachable moment or there was questions or what it was, and you know what, guys, if you don't know what the answer is, be honest with your kids, let them know and say, but we'll find out. Because that, or if your children, I just posted a video in one of my groups. I don't know if you saw it, Karen, of that little one. She could barely talk. She was barely walking. And she went to her mother had brought her to the grave of her sister, and her mother would have been the little one's grandmother and grandfather. This little one is having a conversation. You can tell with spirit. She's going, bye-bye, and she blows them a kiss. Like, there was no way. But babies and children, animals, they can see spirit. No problem.
I would agree 100%.
So
it's quite the wonderful, wonderful world. I'm just looking to see if I missed anything that I wanted us to talk about. I think we already touched on everything. Maybe we could just talk a little bit more about the empowerment of positive thinking and mindfulness. Now, I know we've touched on it.
That's okay.
But I think it's so, critical. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Thank you. Well, we talked a little bit. Like I said, this was my biggest thing. I kept hearing this thrown around. You got to raise your vibration. You got to raise. What the heck is this? So part of it is there's quite a few pieces to it, but it's about, that's the other thing people don't realize. Our thoughts, our words, and our emotions. Everything on this planet is energy, like I said earlier. People do not recognize the power of their thoughts, the power of their words. So, if you're going to say, the more you say it, we live in, if you think about it, in this 3D existence on Earth, it is a creation type of planet. If you think about anything that's here, somebody has either thought it up and somehow made it happen and created it. Well, that's because we have that ability as human beings. That's where the law of attraction comes in. So, again, you have to look at it this way, because some people say, well, I tried and it didn't work. Well, be glad it doesn't always work that quickly, because think of some of the things you asked for, or there's that saying, be careful what you ask for, you might just get it. So, it's so important. And that's why I talk about mindfulness. And I say to people that, you may not be able to do this, but if you can, set an alarm a couple times a day, or, you're probably going to have a coffee break or a lunch break or breaks for the day. When you set that alarm or that go for that break, stop yourself and think about what thought just went by. Once you start practicing that, you will be amazed the amount of thoughts that go by when you're like at the desk writing something, doing your reports, doing whatever, not even realizing it. So changing those words. Self-love's really important. Oh, you were going to say something, Karen? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in my experience, what it me is stepping back into the observer mode and not judging. And that's been a big chore for me. Like, sure, I can be patient with other people, but being patient with myself, it really starts at home. That ties into what you were saying about self-love. But I want to ask you another question, and this is, and I actually, I'm not 100% sure what this is. I thought I would like to know your take on it. I can look back at my life and say, take a 2-year or a 5-year segment and go, holy smokes, there's no way I could have planned my life this perfectly to have had all those variables fall into place for me to get something that was so amazing.
Yeah.
And it really helps me to trust the process.
Yeah.
But where does that go? Who is up there planning all these details for us?
Hey, I got an explanation for you. This is the way it's been shown to me through spirit. Okay, so we go on forever, whether people believe we do or not, and we do.
Mhm.
And as I understand it, and I've also studied near-death experiences since I've been a teenager. So if you ever need some convincing, look up some people's reports of a near-death experience. So most people say they return to source. They don't use the God word. They call it going back home, not to heaven. So what we have is we have a soul group, as I understand it. And then we have like an inner soul group, and then we have like a whole soul group. So in our inner soul group, we usually incarnate at the same time. Not always. So folks, if you're a woman in this lifetime, could have been a man in another. If you're a man in this one, you would have been a woman in another. We try on every single role. But part of the thing is, and this has been explained to me, is even some of the people that maybe your worst enemy, maybe they're the one that push all your buttons. Sometimes that is one of your soulmates. And a soulmate does not have to be religious. Or not religious, I mean romantic, sorry, romantic. I haven't had a lot of sleep today, so don't mind me. So they're not always romantic. But before you come here, you set yourself something that you want to learn that's going to enrich your soul, to help your soul grow. You have agreements with all these people in your group that are incarnating in the same lifetime to help these pieces fall into place. And it happens. So believe it or not, and I just had somebody, another Canadian, Chris Lee, who does past life regression therapy. He's actually even got a book coming out about people that have discovered through past life regression that, they were one of the bad guys. The way I look at it, and it's been explained, and it's a hard thing for us as humans to wrap our minds around, but if you agreed to come into this lifetime and be a really bad person, you've agreed to do it so that the other person in your group is able to, they have the choice to learn from the experience of whatever's happened, or to have the choice to screw it all up. So we have all that. Plus, I was just explaining this to my older son today. He had started a new position, and it's just not what he was expecting it to be. And he gets depression. He's got seasonal affective disorder, and so the world was ending. It was awful. He didn't know what he was going to do. He just might as well give up now. And so what happened was, and I keep telling him as he gets older, honey, it's like a pendulum. Once it swings to the right, it's going to swing back, and then it's going to settle in the center. Well, it's completely changed today. Completely exactly what I said would happen. But I also said to him that maybe this is where you were meant to be all along, where what's fallen in your lap today. We've got our angels, we've got everybody up there that's agreed to help, kind of pushing his buttons like, you know what, you're not meant to be here. So pushed you kind of where you probably should have been all along. Kind of add to that is, if life is going really crappy, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It just seems like you are fighting your way uphill, or, even a canoe upstream. You probably are, because once we stop and that canoe turns and we start going towards where we're meant to, it just seems, anybody I've ever met or talked to, life just gets easier and easier. I think it's a push from spirit. Like I said, it's all our facilitators up there helping things.
I would agree.
I don't know if that helps or not with the question you asked.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. I wanted everybody to hear that. I mean, I have my own thoughts about it, but this is your show. I mean, it's my show, but you're the spotlight on my show. So I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm trying to make it simpler for people, because I'm working with people, and like you said, a lot of people that are newly awakened. I remember I've been there. We've all been there. And so I'm not going to be throwing around all these big names and terms and stuff. And it's not that I don't think anybody's capable of it, but why should you have to go look it up? It's just as easy to see it this way.
And to me, it's a bit like going through a spiritual puberty. Like, what the hell? And there's so much to sort out and stuff. Lorilei, we're coming closer to the end of the show. I don't want to miss the opportunity for you to tell us about your business page, your Facebook groups, your YouTube channel, your podcast. I want you to fill your boots and tell folks what you offer, what they can find, and it'll all be in the links below, everybody. So please do tell us all about it.
Okay, so I am a psychic medium, so I do readings. I also took Dr. Chuck Kennedy's forensic remote viewing course, so I'm able to use my gifts eventually. And you have to practice, just like the muscle. Haven't had as much time, hopefully after the holidays, but I'm hoping to be able to be working with his teams to be able to help missing children and stuff like that. I'm always going to school, always. I'm working on my advanced Akashic Records Practitioner course right now. So I do offer Akashic Record Readings, and then the healing sessions as well. I also offer teaching and mentoring. So the best place people can usually find me is facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I also have two groups on Facebook, and I separated them for a reason. So we have Paranormal University. It's a group I had hoped I would have found years ago, that if people had a question, that we had enough different resources globally that people could ask from all different areas of the paranormal. Even this stuff, folks, I consider the paranormal. If you look at the definition, it's anything but not in the normal realm. And not everybody's spiritually awakened just yet. Hopefully one day. The other group is called the Angel Rocker Tribe. So that's for all the stuff that you might be looking for. You get a lot of free teaching in there, a lot of great podcasts, people post in there, groups that are going on. I'm hoping to be doing a lot more, offering some very short, affordable courses. I'm working on one right now, Angelology 101. Going to be talking about a lot more in depth about chakras, and there's a reason why, because then we get into crystals and all kinds of stuff. So say you're not able to be there, you would have access to the course, all the handouts, the videos, everything would be yours forever. And like I said, I'm going to try and keep it really reasonable for people.
Good.
Let me think what else. I have a YouTube channel. It is called The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, and I do some teaching on there. That's when I mentioned the Love Shield is on there. I also have another great technique called the grounding and gridding routine, and it's very the two of them really go well hand in hand together, especially if you're an empath. Really helps with energy, with stress, and even actually almost connecting with spirit too. There's quite a bit of, I teach you how to feel energy, teach you, and that's a different video, but how to work with color for healing. So I've got a lot of teaching. There's some evidence of the types of reading I do on there. And like I say, I've been a little remiss with the YouTube channel with everything else going on, but I'm just in the process of uploading all my shows. So I have a show Monday night on United Public Radio Network, or UPRN. And again, it's from 9 to 11 p.m. And thank you for mentioning at the beginning of the show, that's Central Time. And what it is it's an illuminating perspective, and I call it on all things paranormal. Just like I said, this could be considered the paranormal. So anything from angels to extraterrestrials to... I don't think I've had anybody on about cryptids, but a lot about past lives, near-death experiences, the power of the mind, positive thinking. So we have a different guest every week. So and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just do readings and do teaching on there. So there's that show. My second one is called Tripping the Void with my best friend, and I call her my PIC, or partner in crime, Seraphine Hurley. And she's actually an occult historian. She comes from a completely different background than I do. And we come up with a topic and we have a discussion in the center together. And it's a lot of fun. Both of the groups you can listen on both shows you can listen on www.uprntalkradio.com. But I invite everybody to come over to the YouTube channel, because then you can watch the show, and we have a live chat room. So you can be part of the show. And I make sure to include you. I've got 2 computers going, so we make sure we pull you into part of the show, whether it's just my show or Seraphine's. I don't think I've anything, right? I'm talking fast, but I don't think I forgot anything, did I?
Well, like I said, I've got a pretty comprehensive list of different links for you that will be in the description box below. So folks hopefully won't have any trouble finding you. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being coming into my life. That was really weird how that all happened through Facebook, and but I had already known about you from other YouTube shows that you'd called in. It's just so funny how it works, how perfectly it all works. And I'm so blessed to have you as friend and to have you on the show. But before you go, is there anything else you want to leave? Wisdom, suggestions, anything you want to give to folks that would help them with their journey?
The one thing I do want to tell you is exactly, I sort of said it earlier in the show, that there really are no coincidences. Trust yourself, trust what you get. What's the worst that's going to happen? Rather than saying it's my imagination or it's this or it's that, there's something you're wanting to know. And I was going to mention this earlier because this is a big question people ask me all the time. If you want to know the names of your spirit guides, when you're quietly sitting there, whether it's a meditation or just taking a couple deep breaths, clear your mind, ask, what are my spirit guides' names? The first names you get, trust that is their name. Because like I said earlier in the show, they don't really care about names. They just want you to know that because we're human, we use names to identify. That, say they tell you Kathy, because that's the other thing. Someone heard Susan. Well, Susan's not an angel name or a guide name. Well, you know what? If that's easier for you to say, then, yeah. So
that's like my ET contact. It goes by Bob. I call him Bob. That's totally cool.
I have a friend, just quickly, that's on radio, Chip Reichenthal. He has one guy that he had said to him, if you actually tried to pronounce my name, it would take you 3 of your Earth days to pronounce it. So he's like Bob or something really, really short.
Yeah, same. Yeah, works for us. I do have my phone shut off, and I have no idea why it's ringing. I'm going to slap it silly after the show. But anyway, so I'm thrilled to bits to have you on the show, and we'll talk again. Pardon?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
And Karen's going to be on my show this Monday. So that would be December. I'm trying to remember the date. Is it
9th?
9th. So she's going to be on my show for 2 hours, folks. So I'm not giving my show a plug. I want you guys to see her on there because it's going to be lots of fun, I think.
It is. I'm gonna tell. The first time I ever told my big angel story from beginning till end, and I'm really getting the vibe that I need to get it out there. Not that I'm so important or anything, just so that other people can realize that may be happening for them, someone they know. And also, it's also an amazing story that's just changed my life. So, but anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much again.
You too. Much love and light, everybody.
Much love and light, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel, click the like button, and share this show with your friends. Check out Karen's website at KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. All the links are available in the description box below. Until the next time, keep up the good work.
Endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest, for time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test, with heart and soul to do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where